What's going on, everybody? Wanted to make a quick video after speaking with one of the therapists that I mentor. They're fairly new out of school, so the conversation kept having this continued theme of why didn't somebody tell me this when I was in massage school, or why didn't I know this before I went to massage school, or things like that. So I made up a list of 5 things that I wish somebody would have told me during that time frame. So, not in any specific order, not in any order of importance, but just 5 things that I wish somebody would have told me. The first one was I wish I would have looked more into different kinds of schools. So, this is something that as a former instructor, like I used to teach it, I've taught at 3 different massage schools. This is something that as students would come through, I'd kind of take them aside and tell this to them, even though we weren't supposed to tell that as the person taking them around the school was watching. But it was always look into different kinds of schools to see what was a good fit for you. Our area here, at one point, we had like 12 different schools. So if somebody were to go around, they could probably find a school that fit them the best. So the schools that I taught at were a lot more tech school type things. So there might have been a medical assisting program, nursing program, things like that, where it was very science, very medical based schooling. So it was a little different than what the school that I went to was. So the school that I went to, I think I got really lucky because it just happened to be a good fit in the end. So after hearing about other schools after I graduated, I was pretty glad that I went to the one that I did. I just stopped into the school on a whim, took a quick tour, and then signed up. So I didn't even look at any other school. So I really got lucky. So if you think of it this way, of like each school kind of has a different focal point. So we have a school here in the area that's more about energy work. Or like I said, the tech schools that I taught at were much more medical. The school that I went to had a good range of things. So it was a good kind of a good choice for me, I guess, because I learned a little bit of everything. So all of these schools do have to teach to the national exam. You might have to look at your state's regulations and see what's going on with that, but we had certain criteria that we had to match for our curriculum. So there's going to be some overlap from one school to the other, but there's a lot of leeway too. So make sure you find a school that is a good fit for you based on where you think you're going to work. So if you want to work something medical, go find a school that's a little bit more medical. If you like sports, find one that has a good sports component. If you want energy, go find an energy school. Okay. Like I said, they're all going to have to kind of cover some of the same topics like anatomy and physiology, kinesiology, stuff like that. But you could probably find one that is a little bit more geared towards your frame of mind. Okay, so that's number one. The second thing that I wish somebody would have taught me, and this is kind of plays off the first one a little bit, is that when you go through school, you are going to learn all these different kinds of topics. And if you're like me, I'm very science minded, I love my research, I love the medical side. So when I went into the classes that were more energy based, I kind of shut my brain off, which really I think did me a disservice. And that I don't think I'd be practicing those techniques or those things, but you probably pick up one little thing or a couple of little things from each one that help mold your particular style. So although I say my overall technique set is more sports massage oriented, I still pull in some things from reflexology or things from acupressure or things from shiatsu or things from lomi lomi. Okay. So don't totally discount those classes just because they don't seem to fit in what you want your wheelhouse to be. You still might find something that is very worthwhile. For example, in reflexology, we were taught these little on the foot to do these little spider fingers on the bottoms of people's feet. I've done that on every single time I've worked on somebody's feet for the last 18 years. I've done that technique on the bottoms of their feet. Okay, so there's things like that you might pick up that are just great, just as a whole. There's no class that's going to be just totally isolated that if you don't do that exact modality, you can't use any of the techniques. So you can just pull things as you see fit. So don't turn your brain off when you get into those classes. Look for something that you can benefit from. The third thing that I wish somebody would have taught me or told me over and over, which they probably did on this one, but you need to know your muscles. Okay. So in school, we were taught we had to learn the name of the muscle, we had to learn the attachment sites, and we had to learn the actions. Okay. So by the time I graduated, I was still working on those very much. So that's step one. You've got to know those things. So when somebody comes in and says it hurts when I do this, you've got to know what muscles do that, what muscles oppose that. Okay, so there's a lot to learn there. So you need to know those different things. So if you need to do it step by step, great. You need to be able to go through and say, this is pec major, this is the deltoid, there's pec minor, there's, be able to name off all the muscles. But then you need to learn those other layers, okay? And this is going to be a non-stop process from now until you're done being a massage therapist. There's so many layers to learning the muscles that you need to have that foundational information first. So later on down the road, you're not only going to need to know what muscles will help me turn my neck to the left. Okay, so for example, this SCM is going to contract to help me rotate to the left. And this levator on this side is going to have to elongate to allow that to happen, okay? But then there's other things that are going on too that, there's, because your neck attaches to your shoulder blades, you have muscles that connect that way. You've got to know what's going on there. Or same thing, if I want to bring this arm up, what's all going, not just to make my arm move, but what's going on with my shoulder girdle as a whole. So there's all these different layers that you need to be able to learn so that when somebody says it hurts when I do this, you can know what does that, but what else is going on. Okay, so there's a lot to learn as far as the muscles go, so keep learning those. Number 4 is you can start advertising at any point, okay? Now when I say that, I kind of loosely using the term advertising, okay? So you can start an Instagram, you can start a Facebook page, and you can start to kind of put ideas out there that you're going to be doing this, okay? So do those posts where it shows you in massage school. Okay, start letting people know that you're in massage school and at some point you're going to be taking clients. Okay, or that you're going to be going to work somewhere and they can come see you there. So I wouldn't pay for advertising. Don't promote yourself as a business yet. Okay, you can't do things like that yet. But you can start letting people know that you're going to be a massage therapist. Okay, so you can set up a Facebook page. You can't open for business by any means. But to go through and share something that you've learned from each day maybe, that can be really helpful for people, and it starts to build some trust for you. So when you do graduate, you might already have this handful of people that want to come to you. So start kind of getting word out that you're going to be a massage therapist. Okay, that's always a good idea. The last thing, and this is probably the hardest one out of all of them, is to get some harsh feedback. Okay, when you're working on somebody, you want to know what you're doing well and what you're not doing so well, okay? This is the time for you to hone in on those skills, to perfect your craft. Because once you start working on people, you have potential to lose a lot of money if you're not doing something correctly. So, for example, I have a client that's been with me for 15 years. Okay, so if I wouldn't have done things correctly at that point, she wouldn't have given me a chance all these years later. So what I would recommend is when you're in school, you should be practicing on the other students. Make sure that they give you some things you could work on. I think the hard thing with this is you have to be in a mindset where you can accept this information. So if you kind of argue with them, or if you don't accept what they say, or you take it badly, they're not going to want to give you feedback like that. So to be very open and say, oh, perfect, like I didn't know that, like thanks, that's awesome. Okay, things like that, they'll be more willing to tell you things. So if you, for example, hit their spine with your elbow as you're running down, great, let them be like, oh, I'm sorry, like, okay, I'll focus on my alignment of my elbow with your spine a little bit better and see if I can figure that out. Okay, so accept that information as they're trying to help you prevent things, because you could be running your elbow up people's spines for the next 10 years and you could be losing clients left and right because you're continually hitting their spine. Okay, so you want to know those things as soon as possible. So to take that a step further, I would talk to your instructors and see if maybe your instructors or maybe somebody in the community that's a massage therapist will let you work on them for some feedback. So to get a feedback from a student that's not as experienced is helpful, but to go to your instructor and have them give you really good feedback is amazing. To go out into the field and find massage therapists that are out there, you might work on somebody and they'll go, you're awesome, like when you're done let me know and I'll, you can come work for me if you want. Okay, that's a way that you could potentially find jobs. So I would highly recommend, I had an instructor that tore me apart stroke by stroke. Every little thing that I did, he let me know. It was, I'd do a stroke down his back and he was like, perfect, that felt great. And then I'd do it again and he'd be like, okay. And then I'd do it again and again. He'd go, okay, that's probably okay now. Like, move on to another thing. Okay, so anything like that. But he literally went stroke by stroke and told me how everything felt, what I could potentially do better with that whole kind of block of techniques or whatever. But that really helped, I think, propel me, years in advance of what maybe I wouldn't have learned on my own. So think about doing something like that, but you've got to be open to some harsh feedback. But you need to make people be comfortable giving you that harsh feedback too, okay? So that's the hard part. So hopefully that was helpful, those 5 things. We're going to have another video series coming up that's 5 things that I wish I would have known as a new therapist to kind of keep this kind of momentum going. So hopefully if you're a new therapist or if you're still a student, that video was helpful. Check back with us and subscribe to the channel so you can see when that new video is coming out. We're going to try and post some things like this that's trying to be helpful, trying to grow our industry as a whole. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Let us know what kind of videos you'd like to see. Depending on the response we get from this, we might be able to do more things like this more often, or if it's not really helpful, then maybe we won't. But while you're at it, head over to Instagram and follow us on there. It's Premier Fitness Massage on Instagram. And then like us over there, and then we'll keep the content coming. Thanks, guys.